Today we're going to be discussing the Curlin 4000 CMS and the Curlin 6000 series pump. They basically operate the same way. The 6000 is the newer generation of Curlin pumps. And there's two methodologies, as we have discussed in the past, for administration. One is directly with a bag system such as this, and the particular tubing for the electronic device, or in this case the Curlin pump, would be connected directly up to the bag. The other methodology for administering the medication is through a spike system, which we're going to show right now. Incidentally, we're not illustrating aseptic techniques or universal precautions, but we're making the assumption that all nurses in the field will be using universal precautions and aseptic techniques in any transfer and any action that takes place involving fluid transfer. Okay, so with the spike system, we remove the simple cover, a plastic cover, which is a sterile cover, and we'll twist lock the Curlin tubing in. Once that's accomplished, that is not coming off. That is there permanently. Then we're going to take the spike and spike the bottle directly. Now, in this instance, the bottle requires air in order for the fluid to flow properly, even with an electronic device. So if you're going to deliver medication directly from a bottle, you must have a vented spike. Since we have to use the Curlin tubing, then we must use the adapter. And the adapter that is often used is the SA2000 vented spike adapter, which we're indicating here. That has to be connected up to the bottle. Now, while we're doing this, we would expect that fluid, because we do not have the spring load clip engaged, fluid will run out. In order to prevent that, we must take the twist lock, untwist it, and allow the spring to clamp down on the tubing so we don't end up with this type of a problem here, which is basically fluid running directly from the bottle through the tubing and then out. So we've lost some fluid in this instance. For the sake of discussion, this particular bottle is a 20-gram bottle, 10% concentration of IVIG. It's actually sterile water that we're using to simulate the IgG. The IgG is typically translucent to a clear fluid. Now, when it comes to connecting up the tubing to the pump, we need to snap the aluminum lock off like so. And what I'm going to show you is there's a slot for the blue section, which is right here. That goes in like so. It'll snap in place. We hope, yes. And then notice that the tubing must fit in the slot. And then on the top side, you'll see there's an amber arrow which indicates where the spring-loaded tubing will fit in directly. If this isn't set up properly, the pump is not going to run. So we fit that in like so, and then we can clamp it down. Now we're prepared to set up the program, or we can initially start the priming. So the first thing we're going to do is depress the on-off switch, and the Curlin pump is going to go through a self-test cycle. So it's going to take a few seconds, and you can see by the various lights, the green light, the yellow light, and the red light. This is just alerting us that we do need to do some maintenance on it, but this pump is used for training purposes only. So the first thing that shows up on the LCD, or the liquid crystal display, is enter to select program or biomed setup. If we're going to go into the biomed setup, we must use the code 000, 4 zeros, followed by the manufacturer's zip code backwards, which is 949 94629. And we'll show you that in a minute. But we're going to program, so we're going to say yes. And whenever we get a pump delivered to a patient's house, and we're servicing this patient for the first time, for example, we don't know whether the pharmacy actually programmed the pump or not. Very often, the pump can come from another resource, and the pump could have been used with different program settings. So the nurse is responsible to confirm the program consistent with the script or the orders that we have for the patient. So one of the first things we're going to show up on the board is the titration mode. So the nurse must verify the titration mode and, in fact, program it. So we don't know whether this is going to be a repeat program. So we're just going to press New Program. Over here it says CON. So the previous mode of operation was continuous. But for now, we're selecting New Program. The new NEW highlight is on the left corner. It allows us to go into continuous, PCA, TPN. We're not going to do continuous, PCA, or TPN. We're not doing intermittent. We're going to do variable. So we're going to say yes to variable. And it's going to ask us, are we using milliliters as a vehicle? Yes. Delay is going to be off. Next is just yes to get to the next indicator. Now, here's where we're going to stop for a moment, and we're going to explain on the board what we're actually performing here so that you can see what's taking place. Now, the whiteboard has been used with the same parameters for another pump. In particular, it was the Bodyguard 323, but we're going to accomplish the same thing using the Curlin pump. The Bodyguard pump is delivered to patients' homes by pharmacies at their election. The Curlin pump is also delivered to the patient's home at the election of the pharmacy itself. So let's go through this. What we want to do with the Curlin, it's either 4,000, 6,000, or the CMS. We want to program 3 steps: step 1, step 2, step 3. And we're saying, for the sake of discussion, we have 30 grams that we're going to deliver to the patient, which is approximately 300 milliliters. So we're saying what we're doing is step 1, we're going to set it up for 50 milliliters an hour, and we're going to deliver a volume of 25 milliliters. That will take 30 minutes. Then step 2, we're going to increase the rate from 50 milliliters per hour to 75 milliliters per hour, and the volume is going to be 32 ml. Again, that's going to require 30 minutes. And as we explained with other pumps, etc., the third and final step, or step 3, or if you will, dose 3, which is the way it's expressed with the Curlin pump, dose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ... N, whatever that may be. So here we're saying the last step will be the terminal step, or the terminal dose. We're going to deliver the fluid at 100 milliliters per hour, and we need to calculate how much fluid it remains that has to be infused. Well, we know that there's 25 for the first step and 32 for the second. So the arithmetic shows up as 57 ml is being delivered in the first 2 steps. And then in the third step, or the third dose, we're going to subtract the 57 from 300, and we get 243. So as it turns out, we need to deliver a volume of 243 ml, and we're going to run at 100 ml an hour. And that should take about 2.25 hours. 2.4 hours for the last step. If we look at the total volume that's being infused and we look at the time parameter, it's 30 minutes for the first dose, 30 minutes for the second dose, and 2.4 hours for the third dose. Then the total time is will approximate 3.5 hours. Okay, so you can see here in the stepping mode, or if you will, in the dosing mode, where there's 3 doses, it's basically titration. Okay. So let's come over to our pump and set our pump up for those parameters. So, if we can get a good shot, the bag volume we're saying is going to be 300, so we'll enter 300, and we'll say yes. The number of doses will be 3, and we'll say yes. The KVO, we don't really care. That defaults to 0.1, so we're going to say yes, next, yes. Then, in a variable mode, which you see in the left corner, dose 1 of 3, the amount to be infused is going to be 25 ml. So we'll set in 25 ml. Okay, and it wants to know what the rate is. So we're going to say 50 ml per hour, and again, yes. So notice the time will be, it's calculated by the program, is 30 minutes. So we're going to say yes. And then it gives us a summary of dose 1 of 3. The rate is 50 milliliters per hour. The time is 30 minutes. Next, yes. So now it's going to ask us for the input for the second dose. The amount to be infused is going to be 32 ml. We're saying yes. The rate is going to be 75 ml per hour. We're saying yes. And again, the time, well, it's 25 minutes, close to 30, but that's just a guesstimate that we had on the board. So we're going to say yes. And then it gives us a summary of dose 2 of 3. The rate is 75, and the time it's going to take is 25 minutes. Next, yes. So the third dose, we need to calculate what the amount is. And as we did already on the board, we know that's going to be 243 ml. We're going to say yes. And the rate's going to be the terminal rate of 100 cc an hour. So we're going to say yes. So it shows that for the third dose, it's about 2 hours and 25 minutes. So we're going to say yes. And then it gives us a summary of dose 3 of 3. The rate is 100. It's going to take about 2 hours and 25 minutes. Next, yes. Yes, the total doses are 3. The total time is going to be 3 hours and 21 minutes, and the required volume is going to be 300 ml. So we're going to say yes. Okay, we're happy with that. Now it wants to know, are you ready to run? No to review. You can review the program if you wish. Options or prime. In this case, we haven't shown you the prime mode, and although we did allow fluid to leak through, just to show you that if you don't have the little amber latch disconnected, or the tab, you will have fluid running through uncontrollably. So let's say prime, and the prime button is down here, the yellow-green one. We're going to prime. So what we need to do is to hold the prime key, and you can hear the motor running, and we're going to continue to hold the prime key until we see a teardrop come out the end of the tubing. So for the sake of our discussion, yes, we're finished with the priming, so we're going to say yes to exit. Now we can set up to run. Obviously, we're going to connect this up to the patient at this time, and we're going to be in the run mode. The run pause mode is the green and the orange button up on the top right-hand corner. So we're going to say run. And it said, notice that it says, listen, the amount to be infused is greater than the bag volume. And why is that? Because we allowed some of the fluid to run through the tubing, so the total bag volume is less than what we programmed for. So do we want to continue? Yes. And now it's showing us that it'll tell us what the total volume is that's being infused. It'll tell us what the line pressure is at the PIV. And it'll tell us so it goes through a cycle through the LCD telling us what the parameters are in relation to the real-time application of the fluid running into the patient's body. Okay? Now, let's put this in the pause mode. Why? Because in our example on the board, we said we had 300 ml that we had to deliver. So we want to start out with a bottle with the lowest amount of fluid. So this is a 200 ml bottle. We would have had another bottle with 100 ml. It's the 100 ml bottle that we want. We want to start out with the lower volume bottles, because if there's any side effects or issues with the patient, we haven't breached the larger bottle. So once the initial bottle is finished, you want to make sure that you have just a little fluid in the neck. You need to put your program, your Curlin pump, in the pause mode. You need to spike the next bottle. So let's assume that we were spiking this bottle. We spike this bottle, and now we're ready to continue. So what we need to do is, you'll notice that when you hit the pause button, it came up with, do you want to resume? Do you want to repeat the program or new program? In this instance, all we want to do is continue with the program. So we're going to depress yes for resume, and then it says you must depress yes to run. Okay? And the amount in the bag is less than, okay, we understand that the amount in the bag to be infused is greater than the volume that we have available, but we're going to continue. So you would transfer from the spike from one bottle to the next when that bottle is virtually empty, but you'd like to capture that such that you don't have air in the line. If you do have air in the line and you're ready to transfer the spike to the next bottle, you must disconnect from the patient and prime the line again to get the air out of the line. Okay, so that essentially is the variable mode. And when you're in when you're using a spike system, you will have to stop or pause at some point to change the spike to the next bottle. So these are the sequence of events that takes place. And notice again, the total volume to be infused is the summation of all of the bottles that we're going to be utilizing. And that's the methodology that we would like our nurses to use. You can pause your infusion at any time for whatever reason. If you have an infiltration or you have a catheter that's problematic or positional, etc., you can pause at any time, and you certainly from time to time are going to see air in the line, in which case you'll have to disconnect from the patient and you'll have to go into the prime mode to prime the tubing again to get rid of the air in the line, and then you'll be able to resume again. All right, so that essentially is the variable mode. Now what I'd like to do is show you the continuous mode. And after showing you continuous mode, you can use the variable mode dose 1 of 1 to accomplish the same thing. So let's do that now. You can shut the program down anytime you need to make changes. It's easier to start with booting up than it is trying to find where am I now and where do I have to go at this point to resume or to repeat, etc. So we'll fire up the program again. We'll fire up the pump again. This happens to be the 4000 CMS. It's going to go through self-test. Notice that the battery power is about 3/4. So, and it says you got to do maintenance, as I explained earlier. This is just a demonstrator, so we don't need maintenance on this particular pump. We're going to program. We're going to say yes. We're going to go down, use the down arrow for a new program. Yes to erase the old program. And then notice it comes up with new. We want to go into the continuous mode, so we respond with yes. Yes to erase the old program. Continuous. The units in delivery are going to be ml, which is always going to be the case. So we're going to say yes. The delay is off. The titration is off. Yes for the next. The bag volume, well, we're just simulating 300 ml because we're suggesting that what's being delivered to this person is 30 grams. And with a 10% concentration of IVIG, that would be 300 ml. The amount to be infused is going to be 300 ml. So we'll enter that. The rate is going to be 100 ml an hour. We're going to say yes to that. And the time is going to be 3 hours. So we're going to say yes. And it says KVO 0.1. That's fine. There's no need to change that. And we're done. Yes. Now it wants to know, well, do you want to run? Do you want to review your option? Or do you want to review what you just programmed? Do you need to prime? Well, we just primed it, so we're not going to go into the prime mode again. So we're going to say run. And again, in the CON implies the continuous mode. So now we're running in the continuous mode. Now what I'd like to show you, and the Curlin pump will give you the statistics of where you are dynamically at any moment. It'll tell you what the line pressure in millimeters of mercury is of the IV, the peripheral IV. It'll tell you how much fluid has been infused, and it'll tell you how much is remaining. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pause, and we're going to turn the program off, recycle it, reboot it, go back on again. It's going to go through self-test. It's going to tell us what our battery power is. If we are about 1/2 battery power, that's an indication that we should be changing the batteries. And the batteries can be changed very easily with a slide their C batteries here. There's another method that can be used, which very few use with the Curlin pump, and that's direct AC. This particular adapter is your AC adapter. This plugs in here, and you're actually using AC power should you run out of batteries and you don't have any additional batteries to use. So let's just assume that we're using AC power now. And we're going to program, we're going to say yes. And we're going to say continuous. It's a new program. We use the down arrow, and then we say yes. We're going to erase the previous program. New, it comes up as new, continuous, yes. Yes to erase. Continuous, yes. The bag volume is 300. Actually, I'm repeating myself. So let's do this just to make sure everybody has the continuous mode correct. The amount to be infused is 300. Yes. The rate is 100 cc an hour. We're going to say yes. And the time is 3 hours. Yes. KVO. Done. Yes. Now you're ready to run. What I need to show you now is how you can use the variable mode, dose 1 of 1, to accomplish the continuous mode. Remember, in critical health care registered nursing services, we primarily are infusing intravenous immunoglobulin, or we're infusing hydration solutions. But in any event, we're usually running in either a continuous mode or a titration or variable mode. So let's shut this down. We're not using the TPN or the PCA mode with the Curlin pump. All right, we'll reboot. Full power. Why do we have full power? Because we're using the AC adapter and not the batteries, even though the batteries are plugged in. We're going to program. We're going to say yes. We're going to use the down arrow to new. And by the way, the difference between this Curlin 4000 and the 6000 is that the new program, or the program, you have to use the down arrow to bring it up to the display because the LCD is smaller. So when you need to set something up in a new program, you have to use the down arrow to bring the new program or program parameter up. That's the only difference. Continue. So we're going to say new program, yes. And we're going to use the down arrow here to get to the variable, and we're going to say yes. Erase the other program, yes. So now you notice that we selected the variable mode of infusion. It shows up here. The units are always going to be in ml. The delay is always off, and next. Now, we're saying the bag volume, again, it's 300 ml for the sake of discussion. The number of, and alert less than minimum, okay, don't worry about that. Number of doses we're going to say is 1. Yes. KVO, we're not worried about that. So dose 1 of 1. What's the amount to be infused is 300. We're saying yes. The rate is going to be 100 cc an hour. We're going to say yes. And it's going to tell us it's 3 hours. And we're going to say yes to complete that task. And it gives us a summation. Dose 1 of 1 is the same as the continuous mode. And the rate is 100 milliliters per hour. And the time is going to be 3 hours. So, and here it says the total. Total dose is 1. The time is 3 hours. The volume is 300 cc. So we're just going to move the yes button down. And now we can run. So the continuous mode can be used as a separate entity when you're going to have a terminal rate applying. Or you can use the titration mode or dose mode with a dose 1 of 1 using the variable mode to accomplish the same thing. So in reality, there's only 2 modes that we will use in our infusion services, either continuous or titration. But even less than that, you can use the titration mode with dose 1 of 1, and that accomplishes the same thing as the continuous mode. Now what I'd like to show you, we're going to shut the program down. I'm going to show you the biomed mode, and how do we get the mode to be on the faceplate or the LCD that we choose to infuse, the mode that we choose to infuse with. Remember, everything that we've been doing thus far, we're using the program mode. So we check the battery power. It's sufficient because, again, we're using the AC adapter. program. No, I'm going down to the biomed mode. This is where you need to apply the special code to enter. So we're going to say biomed mode, yes. Enter code. The code is going to be 4 zeros followed by 94629, and notice that we come right into the biomed mode. Well, where did I get that code from? It's always going to be the manufacturer's zip code. Notice the zip code in California is 92649. All of these Curlin pumps, the 4000, the CMS, or the 6000, will always use the zip code backwards. So it's 94629, preceded by 4 zeros. That gives us the opportunity to get into the biomed mode. Now, why do we want to get into the biomed mode? Because we want to get to the enable therapy. What value or what therapy mode do we want? So we're just going to continuously say yes. Patient ID, we don't care about that. The RX number, none of that information is ever entered by the pharmacy. Invoice numbers, none of those things will come up. Change lock, we're not interested in changing the lock mode. This is what we're interested in, enable therapy. So we're going to say yes. And notice that it comes up with continuous flashing on, PCA on, TPN on. Let's go down arrow. And we can see variable on, and then accept yes or no. We would say yes. But let's go back up, because what I want to show you is how do you turn one on or the other off. Whenever you want the value new, NEW, to appear here, when you fire up the program, you don't want to have to continuously go into the biomed mode. So continuous on. If I want it on, I say yes, and it skips down to the next one. Let's go up arrow. If I don't want it on, I change it and say no or off, and then I have to confirm that by saying, yes, I want it off. So the no change and the yes button act as a toggle switch. But it's much easier if we turn all the program modes on. So we're going to go up again, and we're going to say off, change, on, yes. We must use both buttons to confirm the on mode. We're going to say yes, TPN, every mode we want on, except yes. Now, we don't need any other programming information to be inputted. That is the entire enable therapy. So we're going to shut it down. We're going to boot it back up again. Now what we've done is we've taken the continuous mode, the TPN mode, the PCA mode, the intermittent mode, and the variable mode. Instead of having to go into the biomed mode to select one or the other, we've selected all of them to be available when we go to program. So we're going to say program yes. The previous program was variable. So let's just do the down arrow and say we have a new program coming up. It says new. Now notice this information was in the biomed mode, which is in the backdoor application with the password of 94629. Now we brought it up to the faceplate, continuous, PCA, TPN. We'll do the down arrow, intermittent or variable. So we're not going to be in a TPN mode or an intermittent mode. We're either going to be in the variable mode or the continuous mode. But we bring them all up to the LCD. This way we don't have to continuously go back and forth into the biomed mode to change the mode of infusion or the administration. So the biomed mode primarily functions to enable all of the therapies, and we say yes, and then we power down, and when we power back up, we're going through the boot up routine again, and then we can program either variable or continuous. Once we've accomplished it once, we don't have to go back into the biomed mode to make any additional changes. So just to summarize then, typically we operate in the battery mode, which requires 2C batteries. But if the patient is delivered the AC adapter and you don't have any additional new batteries, by all means connect up to the pump and you can operate from the AC adapter converting to the DC. And again, I'm just going to shut the program down. Bear in mind that the The blue tab has an arrow which indicates where it needs to be placed, and so does the amber one. Sometimes there are problems with the amber spring. If the spring is not sitting horizontally, or I should say vertically, it could be a problem. It could be locked, closed, which is the mode it's in right now. If I want to unlock it, I would have to press down on the spring chamber itself. And you can see I'm releasing the pressure on the tubing, and it's allowing fluid to drain out. So if there's a problem with the tubing, it's usually going to be the amber plastic assembly, which houses the spring, which either enables or disables the locking of the tubing itself. Okay, so again, connecting up, we connect up the blue tab. Again, notice there's a slot. The tubing has to be in the slot position, and the amber connector over here like so. And now you're set up to program in either the continuous or the variable mode. If you're going to use a bag system, and some pharmacies prefer the spike system, typically there would be a papoose or a small assembly that would allow you to mount the pump on a bracket, and this would hang on the IV pole. If for some reason the pharmacy forgets to send the mounting assembly, you can always have this standing on an end table or a coffee table, and this you would have to find a device, a lamp or something that you can hang this on, so that you can deliver the fluid. Again, it's important to realize that once this fluid reaches the neck and you have more bottles, you have to put the pump in the pause mode, and you must change the spike to the new bottle. And if you have air in the line, you must disconnect from the patient and find a small paper cup or something of that nature, and prime until you have all the air out of the line. With the bag system, you're obviously going to transfer fluid with the transfer bag from the bottle into the bag, and once that's been accomplished, there's a clamp usually with the bag. You'll clamp that off, and the tubing does not require the spike adapter, because with the bag will collapse by itself, and you don't have any, there's no need to be concerned about the air. The air will simply cause the plastic bag to collapse. But you always need a spike or air vent when you're delivering any fluid, and in particular the IVIG, directly from the bottle. If there are any questions, I can be reached at 631-473-4036. We look forward to your service in providing high-tech quality services to our patient base. And the Curlin pump is one of the main staples that we have in our inventory, or one of the primary infusion devices that are provided by the specialty pharmacies. Again, any questions, you can contact us, and we'll be happy to discuss any issues that you may have in utilizing this particular pump.